All right, people, we're live. Talking about got a lot of really good stuff for you guys today. You might be wondering, where's the wine, huh? Where's the wine? Are we not drinking? Are we not drinking any wine today? That wouldn't be very much like me. Don't worry, we actually got the wine right here to celebrate the first day of spring. We have a lovely Tasmanian wine. It's a shout out to Jake. Jake, you know who you are. Uh, Guy on Twitter I hung out with. He's a good friend down in Tasmania, and we picked this up together. So since it's getting to be cold down there now, and we're celebrating some spring here. But first, I want to tell you guys my COVID stack. All right, because this is the stuff I make my boomer parents and my wife drink with me every day. So supplement wise, vitamin D, NAC, selenium. Um, NAC and vitamin D are kind of staple supplements in general you want to be taking. Very good for the immune system. But this little concoction I got right here, this is what I'm becoming famous for in the family. So this is a combination of vitamin C, zinc, chaga, and elderberry syrup. Okay, it packs a bit of a punch. I'm gonna have a little bit of it right now with you guys. But basically, I take in this thing, and I at this point, it was a little bit higher dose before. At this point, I split it. We probably, this is probably like 8 servings worth of concoction of tonic. And 1 second here. I should have actually shaken this up first because the zinc tends to settle down. Okay. So I've been talking a lot about some of these things for a while. The chaga and the vitamin C. Yeah, well, wait till you try it, man. The elderberry actually makes it kind of tasty. So sour, man. Woo, sour. But it's healthy for you. This has got 4 spoonfuls of vitamin C, 1 spoonful of zinc, and 2 spoonfuls of chaga, and a little top off of the elderberry. I've said this before. Chaga mushrooms. This is a Siberian mushroom. It grows on the bark of birch trees, and it's kind of almost looks like rotting wood if you look at it. You gotta take care of the boomers, man. The boomer parents. They're the kind of people who don't think any of this is a big deal, and then when everything gets shut down, then they get paranoid about every little thing. It's just such a normie tale. But oh boy. All right. Oh, you better believe I ordered chaga. And by the way, this is not like a brand rec. I don't know if this is the best one, but it's legit. I mean, I think as long as you make sure you get one that isn't filled with filler and read the reviews, you're going to be in good shape. But yeah, chaga is kind of like one of the big missing pieces for a lot of the supplementation stuff. It's got antiviral properties, and most importantly, it regulates your immune system, so you avoid the cytokine storm. Now let's move on to the tasty stuff here. We got a Riesling from Tasmania. It's quite good. It's a little simple. It's very dry. The story behind this guy is kind of interesting. Joseph Cromy, as I recall, he was a Czech Jew, fled during World War II, one of the Holocaust stories. And one of his big things that he set up in Tasmania, this is around Launceston, so not Hobart, which is where most of the wine region is in the far south. This is Launceston, which is the other second city, and that's more in the north center of Tasmania. Anyway, solid, it will suffice. Let's get on to the rest of this talk here. All right, let's get into the meat. So, one of the things that I've been asked about is about what is exactly the story with COVID, and I haven't brought it up on the initial ones because there's a lot of competing narratives around what happened. Pretty much the only thing that is widely agreed upon is that
COVID was engineered, that it was engineered and likely engineered in the Wuhan Viral Research Center. There's also another center that was in Wuhan, Wuhan Biological something center. And there's a lot of sketchy stuff around that. Like Dr. Lieber out of Harvard, he's now been arrested. He was connected to that lab. You also have Bill Gates, I believe, via Pilbright, put some money into that. And what's interesting also is that Gates has been talking about a virus of this exact nature for a couple of years. I mean, a lot of people know about it in November. Just last year, they were talking about coronavirus. How do you handle a coronavirus plague? And then there's all this kind of stuff that kind of interesting. Actually, BAP on Bronze Age Pervert talked about this just a little bit ago, about how it was interesting how there was like a recall of all the masks that would deal with corona just like late in the summer. And Gates had been talking about a SARS-like coronavirus coronavirus, SARS are all bat based things, but within the code of this, the Wuhan, the Chinese coronavirus, there's a structure that's connected to HIV, basically, which makes it such a difficult thing, why it spreads so much. Now, what I've heard, though, so one of the things we talked about in a previous Periscope, we talked about the difference between, like, why is it that all these elites are getting coronavirus? Because as a function of the population, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And then you see them doing all sorts of sketchy stuff on social media where they're talking about, we'll talk about a little bit about that later on, but I tweeted about Madonna's Instagram. Ellen's stuff is quite weird too. She's calling up all her friends, speaking in coded language for the most part. Doesn't look like a very happy camper at the moment. I don't know about you. Didn't see Ellen. Ellen seemed to be going through the motions a bit. She had something on her ankle, or mid calf, I think more appropriately. I don't know what it is. Some people think it's like like an ankle bracelet to kind of keep you in a place. I don't know about that. Maybe there's nothing to it. Maybe it's a benign sort of explanation, but there is something there. And just to be sure, like, I didn't just, because people can doctor photos, like, I went to her actual Instagram and it's very, very clearly, you guys can do it. Very, very clear. There is a rectangular box on her mid calf underneath her pants. And it looks like that one picture, it's clear as day. And it looks like it's also another picture. So I don't know what it is, but she's acting weird. They're all acting weird. So the question is, why do these people have coronavirus? Now, we speculated on some things before, but one of the speculations that has been coming up more and more is that there was a batch of adrenochrome, which we'll talk about in a second, that was laced with a more virulent form of COVID. And the idea of it would be to, well, obviously make them sick. One of the things that Q keeps saying is these people are sick. There's always coded language. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you're making a jump with these things, but the other point about this that was interesting is that she looks unwell, man. I mean, she looks very unwell. Hanks looks unwell. Madonna looks unwell. I mean, they look like they're in withdrawal of some sorts. But the other point about lacing the COVID would be to effectively give prima facie evidence that they were doing these activities. Because if you consumed adrenochrome and the adrenochrome, and you got sick and it was from a tainted batch, I don't have to make it up for you. I would not take the vaccine. Because it's not necessary, but also because if I have someone like Bill Gates who's talking about trying to make, well, let me be precise in this, talking about what if a coronavirus was able to travel airborne for longer distances, right? What if a coronavirus was able to go longer distances? Because SARS was, like, I think 2 feet transmissible. With COVID, it's 6 feet airborne. It's much which is a massive difference in terms of transmissibility, and also it seems like a lot of people who maybe had COVID, they can carry it on for longer. We're still trying to figure out exactly how this virus works. The point is that Gates has talked a lot about these things. He's talked about vaccines, and if he's giving money to the Wuhan Viral Research Center, and then a little virus slips out of the Wuhan Viral Research Center, and then it's Gates to the rescue, or at least it would have been. I mean, now he's been kicked off the board. So, no, I would not. Look, guys, it's not even necessary because I'll answer your question in a second, Sahal. It's not even necessary because we already have the solution for it, right? Like if you take antiretrovirals, but especially if you take chloroquine, which is basically a malarial treatment, it cures it. It was like, I think it was 100% of cases that were administered it, they cured it. And I was aware of the malaria connection for about 3 weeks to a month. And so when I was buying all this crazy stuff right here, dude, they're trying to get it all over the world. They wanted to kill everybody with it. I'm just, not to be too conspiratorial here, but this is a conspiracy periscope. So I am not going to get the vaccine because it's not necessary, and I don't trust it. I don't trust the intent behind it. I've heard a lot of theories about that. Maybe we can talk about that on a different periscope. I want to try to. I didn't talk about Tom Hanks' son's video. It's a good. I just want to answer this glycine question. What I take usually, I have a jar full of glycine and vitamin C together that I take. In my early batches of this thing, I actually had glycine in it because I was using the vitamin C for that. Now I'm being a bit of a purist, so I'm taking glycine actually less and more separately. But I do recommend glycine. Glycine's a really good supplement. But yeah, with this virus, it's not. I wouldn't take the vaccine, and I actually got cinchona bark, which is cinchona. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's basically the bark that you get quinine from. Quinine, gin and tonic, right? Gin and tonic. Why do we create gin and tonic? Because Brits didn't want to get malaria, and they didn't want to drink quinine, which is very bitter. If you had tonic water, it's bitter, and so they mixed it with gin. All good drinks, right? Quarantinis right now. All good drinks have a story with disease very often. So, uh, so anyway, so I got that stuff because I know that if you boil it down and you add zinc to it, it's a very powerful tonic that could, at the very least, significantly subdue the virus if there was some sort of lag. So I'm just trying to cover all my bases. Look, I want to say this. I want to say this before I keep going with this. I got some retarded comments on Twitter about me saying that I don't believe this is a real virus. It is, of course, a real virus. I mean, how on earth are you supposed to? I'm all about, we're on this conspiracy podcast. I'm all about conspiracy stuff. Maybe it's going to turn out to not be as big of a deal. Maybe it's going to turn out to be a very highly transmissible and maybe more extreme flu in terms of damage. It could be just that bad, which is not something that we should just blow off, because that is still serious. We don't really know a lot about this virus. So I'm not, I have never said anything. I have covered more bases than 99.9% of the public when it came to dealing with this virus. I'm taking it seriously, and you should take it seriously too. Follow the quarantine, because speaking of which, I just was asked in there by Nick. That's because, Nick, because this is not just about the virus. And I was asked this question in a chat in preparation for this. I don't think it's going to be a year. I mean, the big stuff has been 10 days of darkness. From what I've heard, the predominance of this stuff is going to be 30 days. It started on March 11th, going to run through Good Friday. I would not be surprised if there are still going to be some social control measures that last through May. But the rounding up of the cabal, assuming that this whole thing with the storm and the plan, assuming this is all correct, right? And I'm saying that directionally, I believe that it's correct. This is good. So I'm going to talk about that in a second, Longinus. Directionally, I believe I'm correct with this. And I've been in groups, and a lot of them think that this is Agenda 21, and everyone's just going to die. This is when the military takes over everything. This is the new world order. I don't believe that shit. They don't put any evidence towards it. They just freak out. People are addicted to. There are good people out there who can know everything. It's just that the reptilians control everything. We're doomed, Or if we're going to get help, it has to be from Pleiadians, or whatever. And I'm not talking about the aliens today, all right? But just to tell you that I am really sick of all this. I'm sick of it. I mean, I think it's nonsense, and I actually think it's a psyop. Um, I'm not saying that everything that I'm and I've told you guys this multiple times. Like, think for yourself, do your own research, because this is, I know I'm directionally correct, but I don't know the exact details. We're speculating here on trying to figure out the exact details. But so talking about the virus and its connection to the cabal, there's a Sasquatch behind me. There's a beautiful cherry tree. Hold on a second. So the virus playing into the cabal, I do think that there'll still be an election this winter. The virus playing into the cabal. Guys, all right, hold on with the questions. I appreciate it. I'm going to try to get to it. I have this all in a list, and we can do tons of questions at the end if I haven't answered it already. Because I'm already bad with tangents, and I don't encourage my worst instincts. So how does the virus play in with the cabal? I was asked this. This is tough to exactly piece together, okay? But by all accounts, what it seems like is that the virus was engineered by the cabal. It was, and I've heard it was engineered actually to leak in the United States. That was actually disrupted and taken care of. I heard a crazy story about it breaking in there's some sort of elites trying to get a vaccine. I don't really know. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't really have enough belief in it to be credible yet. But there's a lot of different narratives around it, but the sort of where everybody seems to be basically getting to is that the virus was a cabal virus, and through some mechanism or another, it was basically turned against them. And part of it was turned against them in terms of giving the white hats, so to speak, Trump, DIA, and they're all across the world. There's a lot of good people across the world who are sick of this shit. But basically, it gave them the window to make the strikes over this 30-day period. And I have heard this like 10 days of darkness. I mean, I haven't actually gone as much into that as I'd like yet, but from what I understand, the 10 days of darkness is going to be a severe lockdown period. It could mean that the internet goes off for periods of time. So download your favorite shows, right? Bust out those DVDs. So and that would be most likely from what I've heard, April 1st, most likely through like the end stage, April 1st through Good Friday, and that would be the final cleanup portion of it. I don't know if that's going to happen. I can tell you that if this is not the storm when the DIA and Trump, when they're actually cleaning up the stuff, and all evidence as far as I'm concerned suggests it's happening, right? If it's not that, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. If it's not that, then it's not going to happen. I mean, if it's not happening now, it's not going to happen. So, but everything I see shows that it is, that there is a cleanup right now. Well, that's the thing. The CIA is a little bit. They got bigger fish to fry at the moment, from what I understand. They got bigger fish to fry. A lot of actually, I didn't even think about this. I'm talking about fried fish. I'm like, maybe I'm CIA, like Madonna. Maybe I'm CIA, using all this coded language. But yeah, so we don't know the exact. The cabal was supposed to use, this is the general theory, is that the cabal was going to use COVID. It's going to kill a lot of people. But the big thing was going to be then it was going to prompt everyone to go to a vaccine. So it was going to give the government full control of everything. It was going to go to martial law because everyone had to be shut down. There was also aspects of this too with like creating a war with Russia. But the idea was that the virus and everyone would get a vaccine, and the vaccine would basically be tied in with it would. I know this is sounding like really crazy stuff, and hold it lightly, hold it very very lightly. But the vaccines would have nanobots in it basically, and that the idea was that it was connected to the social credit system in China. So if your social credit, if you were sort of out of line, they'd be able to kill you off, basically. I mean, and China's doing this with the Uyghurs, right? China's harvesting their organs. They're putting them in the forced labor and they're harvesting their organs, and they have complete control over all that stuff. So people like China was a testing ground for that. So yeah, they could scan you to see if you had the virus. So look, again, directionally correct with these things. Tons of details could be off, but directionally correct. So the white hats use COVID against them. And now we'll shift into the adrenochrome part of the conversation. Adrenochrome is this compound. It is like an oxidation of adrenaline, basically, and it's got enormous regenerative capacities, like cellular regenerative capacities, and gives an enormous high. Like I've heard it's like taking, LSD and meth combined, like just the best drug that you could get your hands on. Now, how do you get your hands on it? Well, it can be synthesized. I don't know what Division 2 is. It can be synthesized, but apparently only about 70%. And even when you get the raw material, there still needs to be usually some processing. And again, there's some points here which I haven't reconciled. There's slightly different argumentations. But basically, adrenochrome is found in like about 10 times the amount with children. And how do you get it to activate? You get to activate by terrorizing the victim. The victim is terrorized, the levels of adrenochrome spike in their body. And so it's part of the reason. There's also symbolic, ritualistic versions or reasons for this, but they would effectively do these sick, disgusting rituals where they tortured and raped children, and then they would harvest the adrenochrome. Now, I've heard that they could do it through using a needle. And yeah, Marina Abramovich is she's a black witch, basically. I mean, look, guys, look up spirit cooking. Like, go and look it up, and then explain to yourself what that means. A lot of what they do is mocking you. Like, there's images of Marina Abramovich, Lady Gaga eating a cake that looks like a person. I mean, all this stuff is symbolism, and that was the one thing that was always said: is symbolism will be their downfall because they have to do it. It's an impulsive thing. Demons always have to. They can't hide. If you're a demon, you always have to give your signature. And so the entities that are, basically controlling or interfacing with these people, that is what they make them do. So you have so adrenochrome is like the thing, and I've heard like trillions of dollars of adrenochrome being intercepted. Cross-border trade. This is a major thing with the cartels and open borders. They supply children. They also ship the raw product. Now the connection with COVID is that in Wuhan, remember you guys heard that there are two strains of COVID. They've been talking about that, and one seems to be a lot worse than the other. Well, the one that seems to be, that from what I've heard is worse, is the one that a lot of leaders are getting, right? Remember, there's this minister in Iran that died of it. That is the one that was supposedly, theoretically, right, laced with the adrenochrome, and that was the way to trace them. And that one is not airborne. It's more of a sexually transmitted disease or fluid transmission. Again, I don't know. You guys can go explore this stuff down your rabbit hole. If you guys want to go down there. But adrenochrome in general, I mean, since Google's results have stopped being manipulated, I really encourage you guys. This is if you are looking for a tell, check out Google now, because Google is not what it was before. Ever since that rat went up on the Democratic Party logo last Monday, and that got taken down. Okay, that got changed. But if you go to search, the search results are not manipulated like they were before. Like, if you want to find information about stuff, you can find it. So, from what I've heard, that's the white hats have taken control of it because they want you to research this information. I mean, if this is the Great Awakening, you guys have to wake up, which is why I'm putting my own reputation and risking this stuff to talk about it, because if we're going to talk about it now, we're going to talk about it now. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, right? Try to be candid with you about it. Speaking of which, this is a good segue point. So the adrenochrome stuff, you get adrenochrome through these serious rituals. If you want to get the really, really pure form, you get a victim that is young and is absolutely just young and innocent. And actually, I want to make this point. I heard this. I can't vouch for it because I've heard contesting theories about this is gross, by the way. What I'm about to tell you is disgusting. This next segment is going to be really disgusting. So if you don't want to hear that stuff, then get off of it. Get off the Periscope. Wait later on. Skip ahead. But there's, let's say, so a lot of the adrenochrome concentrates in the pituitary glands. And so in some of the more serious rituals, they wouldn't simply extract it from the spinal cord after things were done, but they would literally like tear the person's head off and eat the pineal gland and everything around it. And apparently the I've heard that with black children, right, the pineal gland is a little bit more creamy, it's a little bit preferred. I've also heard though that white children went for quite a bit in trafficking, and I've seen images of them with all sorts of children. So I think that they like getting it in general. But you guys maybe recall Rachel Chandler, right? With that, notice, by the way, all the Cabal figures. Notice that they all have nonprofits and stuff that are somewhat connected to children, that are somewhat connected to like Save the Children sort of organizations. Rachel Chandler was one of Hillary's. This is back in Haiti with the earthquake in Haiti. She would ship children back to the States. Multiple of those children that were put up there were missing. Actually, you took the words out of my mouth, man. Rachel Chandler, like, right, child handler, right? There's like words in there. If you break up the name, it's like child handler. Who knows if it was actually her real name, right? Maybe that was just a cover name for her and her role. But a lot of these children were shipped overseas. Posters were put up, and that was it. And then a lot of those posters became artwork. And the children themselves actually were shipped under the aegis about, man, it's in all sorts of random locations. I mean, it's just, I really recommend, if you guys want to find out this stuff, be curious, use discernment. Tons and tons of bullshit out there. Like I said, what I'm telling you, there's error in here, but maybe it spurs your imagination to investigate and draw your own conclusions from it. The stuff with Rachel, I mean, the stuff I'm telling you right now with Rachel child handler and Hillary Clinton, well documented. I think it was like 17 children or something like that. Or maybe it was much more than that. I don't know. But they were caught being basically trafficked. And that all got buried, of course, because the Cabal buries, the media protects people in the Cabal. But this was like a big scandal because she was like caught red-handed child trafficking. Now, I've heard that's one of the ways that they would do this is by having them being shipped under, I don't know. I mean, whatever. I don't want to go into it. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel enough grounded in that material to talk about it. But at any rate, part of the child trafficking rings are all connected to that, and the gangs connected to the trafficking of the children and trafficking of drugs, which would help to monetize the operations as well. That was a way that they would keep things off books. By the way, now that we're on the topic, side note, I mean, do you ever wonder why opium production in Afghanistan increased after we invaded Afghanistan? I mean, it's like we went there to increase the opium because that's where the CIA would get funding. I mean, the CIA got funding from a lot of different locations. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was slush that was funneled off from, Federal Reserve, et cetera. But, I mean, very directly to get their operating budgets, they would basically fuel drug trade. It's one of the reasons why their activity corresponds with higher drug use. So, and the cartels, the cartels would get a cut for this. And the cartels were also useful because it was better if you wanted to have someone shot like Seth Rich. If you wanted someone shot like Seth Rich, who was a DIA agent, But if you want someone like Seth Rich killed and you want your hands clean because God knows there's tons and tons of ways to trace it, you're going to have a gang like MS-13 take care of them. Because it's like, oh, it's just a gang, right? You're on the gang turf. It's like, no, no, no. Why do you think it was a big deal for Trump to go after MS-13? Why was that a big deal? It's a big deal because MS-13 is the assassins and traffickers of the cabal. Everything's connected, guys. It's all connected. It's not some. He doesn't say things that are arbitrary. He doesn't say things that don't have any meaning. There's always messages within it. So this is an opportunity for me, since we're talking about all this stuff with children trafficking. Let me top this off. This actually wine is improving. I'm getting more minerality from it. It's a little bit disappointed at first. So, where was I here? So, I made a mistake. I'm gonna a half mistake, but I still take responsibility for it. It was reckless. I don't want to be like some people who talk about these things that are like, I was right about everything. Claiming credit, talking out of both sides of their mouth. I yesterday I put out a tweet. Barron Trump is a time traveler. We'll talk about Barron Trump another time. Interesting theories on that. Actually, interesting theories. I talked about these images being released from Wiener's laptop yesterday, and that is not new images being released. As far as I can tell, that is not true. Now, the images I saw are from a video, which I could not find and probably shouldn't have really looked for, considering it has, from what I've heard, I've actually, I stopped when I was told that there's pedophilic aspects to it. It's basically a child. I mean, basically, this is what I'll describe the video to you. Again, this is graphic content, and I did see some of the images, and it's of a child who's basically being tortured and mutilated by Hillary and Huma, and half her face is torn off, and they wear her face, and it's just horrifying. And I have spoken to people who have seen it, okay? And I trust them. The video came out in 2018. It has not been released recently. And so that was incorrect. It's not that more videos have come out. But there is pretty solid corroboration that this is... why are you talking? What the fuck are you doing here? Get the fuck off. There's pretty significant corroboration that it is actually the video. Like, it is a legit video. I read the debunkings of it, and the debunkings were the usual kind of like Snopes. If Snopes says it's not true, it's like that is not good enough, right? That's it's usually damage control. Snopes is damage control for a lot of things. I'm not saying that you can't trust them on anything, but this is so basically. I have seen other videos though that were pretty gross, pretty creepy, of Clooney and Obama and like a little Asian child on a boat. Very, grainy, but very, very clearly very, very clearly who it is. That's not up for debate. It's not like, it's very obviously Obama and Clooney. I don't know what the fuck they were doing with that child there. So I saw a lot of fucked up stuff, but I should have not got a little enthusiastic, and I should be asking more questions, posing more questions to you, rather than telling you this is what is actually happening, unless I have full confirmation. So I apologize to you guys, and I will do better in the future with that. By the way, that file is frazzle rip. That is what tipped me off that my intel was kind of weak. They are. Muslims and Christians are, dude. It's like, I mean, the cabal is enemies of all people. There's nobody here, unless you're a Satanist, that would possibly be pro-cabal. So I think that there was one more thing I wanted to talk about here. Let's see here. Okay. So the tunnel system and DUMBS. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that comment. DUMBS. So DUMBS is short for Deep Underground Military Bases. And I talked to you guys about those earthquakes. There's been earthquakes happening a lot over the last year, if you guys noticed it. most of them not terribly big, really, over since Trump has been elected. They've been gradually rooting it out. Now, from what I've heard, and again, no ability for me to confirm this, and you just have to use your own discernment and decide how to what extent you want to trust it. But there are allegedly 206 known military bases in the United States alone. They're all over the world, and this is cabal bases basically. And there has been massive fighting within these bases. Some of these bases are dedicated to very different things. Some for data storage for the cabal, some for ammunition dumps, some for genetic modification, some for other sick ritualistic practices. But to give you an idea, right, of I'm just going to give you an idea. Like, you don't have to think about, you can ignore the fact that, the coincidence of these earthquakes in Salt Lake City being around where there's military personnel. You can ignore the fact that there's earthquakes in like Oklahoma, right? Small earthquakes, right? We're not talking about generally very big things. Most of them are in the 5-point range, sometimes even lower than that. Occasionally they're a bit bigger. But here's a great example of like the narrative not quite getting it. Last summer with the China Lake, I talked about this on a previous Periscope, but I didn't mention this, is that the first earthquake was 6.4, and then they said the aftershock was 7.1. But the aftershocks are not bigger than the initial. Like, they're never bigger than the initial. And Trump set aside almost $600 million to a group called the Asymmetrical Warfare Group, and they're in support of special operations. And if you can go to the site, you can check it out. An enormous amount of what they do is tunnel warfare, and you see them going into bases. They're training in bases, they're training for underground warfare, basically. And they're basically, what's going on is they're going in and they're destroying these tunnels. They're destroying the cabal's tunnels, and it's little by little they're rooting them out, and that's what's happening at the moment. So, again, what I heard, I have no fucking idea if it's true. I have no idea. We're about 2/3 through the American bases right now. The earthquakes and stuff that you saw in Iran, that was also military base stuff. Although some of the ways we would take out the bases, so usually it'll be through infantry infiltration, fighting through out there. I've heard in one case, because the tunnel was very deep, that we used a neutron bomb. It was in New Zealand, very, very deep base. Again, I don't even know if I believe it. They said 800 miles. I don't know if that's possible. Theoretically, you should be in the mantle. So again, hold all this stuff very lightly. The other thing was that I'm losing my train of thought here. Oh, but we can use things like satellites using HAARP technology, HAARP. I can talk about that very briefly here. To cause earthquakes in places, and that's a way to destroy a tunnel. You can get a precision hit on it. You guys ever notice that hurricane was off the coast was supposed to go and hit Mar-a-Lago, and it just went off the coast and just stayed off the coast, and everyone's like, there's no way it should be happening with that. How is that possible? It's like, well, that was HAARP technology. A lot of the stuff, I'm not talking about it right now, but a lot of the stuff with climate change, because look, you can know that CO2 is not responsible for what's going on with the planet. You can know that. And I mean, I studied this in college. Like, if you actually look at it, CO2 is not what's creating problems. But people who are saying that there are not climate variations, I mean, there are climate variations. Yes, HAARP. Yeah, exactly. There's a demilitarized, open to the public museum in Fairbanks, and they claim it's just whatever. But basically, you're using electromagnetic waves to affect weather patterns. One of the reasons that you'd see like bees dying a lot, that was connected to that. There have been weather modifications going on, and that is part of why you see the climate changing. It's very variable. In particular, it's because of this stuff. So remember this. This is a really important way of thinking. Just because something is wrong, like, you can say, okay, CO2 is not the reason these problems are happening. Okay, that's not, CO2 is not doing it. It doesn't mean that nothing else is happening, right? It doesn't mean that because an explanation for a phenomenon is happening is incorrect. It doesn't mean that the phenomenon is not occurring. And it's a really bad way to argue if you do that, because then you just get into dogmatic positions. And I also believe that there's probably some degree of sunspot variation with it, because we do know about the Mihalovich cycles and how it affects um, basically how the temperature varies throughout periods. But from what I understand, the volatility in the climate is completely man-made. It doesn't have anything to do. That's a trend line with the Mihalovich cycles. The micro variability, the fact that in some places you're having record lows and other places record highs, it's climate manipulation. So anyway, that's today's talk. You guys have any questions? Any questions? Oh man, I'm not gonna touch the Michael Levon Robinson uh, theory. If it's true, we'll find out. I don't know anything about Melinda Gates though. Do I think that the government was hiding COVID-19 before it became too big? Define hiding. I mean, Trump, they knew about it. They knew about it for sure. And they did. And from what I understand, they stopped it. They stopped the massive transmission of it in America, like that it was supposed to be leaked there. Again, it's all speculative. I find it. I mean, certainly they knew about it by January, but they knew about it. I mean, I'm certain Trump knew about it. But the reason he was like, not, don't be worried, is because there's couple different ways you could think about it. I mean, it's obviously trying to make the population feel more confident, but I also genuinely believe that not a lot of people over here are going to die from it. Not because it isn't serious, but because there have been, it's being under control, and there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. I mean, take your stack, observe the quarantine, because there's such a band of what could be actually happening. There's such a band of like possibilities with it. Like, remember, it could be a cabal attack that is designed to mostly incite things for, let's say, a vaccine, or it could be a cabal attack that's designed to kill tons and tons of people. And the data is very mixed. It looks like there's like some people get it, and it's like, I had a bad case of the flu, and other people get it, and it's like, and even if they're young, it's like their lungs shut down. And I'm not convinced that we're seeing the same thing in both cases, which is why there's that argument about there being two strains. So I don't know. But I'm certain Trump knew about it. If not, well before he first had to talk about it, well before 2020. I mean, do not underestimate the military intelligence establishment. Do I think the worst is over, or more to come, you think? I think that this is the darkness before the dawn, so to speak. So we are in a massive transition period, and the end of the transmission period is going to be one of the more difficult points. So I really think that in like the next 2 weeks are going to be some of the most intense stuff. And then after Easter, there would be theoretically, right, if the timeline is more or less correct, there will theoretically start to be disclosure about public figures, very big public figures who have been, let's just say, protected for a long time and pumped up, and that there's going to be a lot of dissonance among the population, which is when you guys are going to have to be a voice of reason and calm throughout all of this. But I really do believe that on a like, by this time next year, we will be living in a completely different society, economically, culturally. Like, it's going to be like, in Lord of the Rings, when like Sauron is taken out, like that's what it's going to be like. I genuinely believe that. I'm banking my reputation on it. The shifts are going to be bigger than, I think it's really going to be the biggest in the last 1,000, if maybe 2,000 years, but they're certainly going to be the biggest since World War II. Certainly the biggest since World War II. I mean, you can say that without question. Fred Trump and Tesla. Well, I think it's more John Trump, right? John G. Trump and Tesla, Trump's uncle. Trump's uncle, for you guys who don't know, Trump's uncle was in naval science and intelligence, basically. And when Tesla, who discovered the secrets of the universe, how things really work, the power of 3, 6, and 9, Tesla, when he died, the Navy had, and I presume the Navy, because the Navy was always the more science heavy branch. That will be the Space Force in the future, but the Navy traditionally has been the more scientific branch of the military. Tesla, John G. Trump was assigned to take over and review Tesla's files, and John G. Trump and Donald Trump were very close to each other. They had a lot of time together. They talked quite a bit. It's no coincidence. It's no coincidence. There's no coincidences here. Okay. Trump's known about this stuff for a long time. It's my opinion that he played this sort of buffoon perspective. He knew he was good for business. He's a good marketing guy, but it's of my opinion that he was spying on these circles for a long time because no one took him seriously. He was the guy from Queens who, brash billionaire, just like gold, just, oh yeah, we can show this guy. He's not going to do anything. He's like us. He's cheap like us. Meanwhile, he's constantly thinking, he's strategizing. Trump has said himself his favorite book is The Art of War. The Art of the Deal is styled off of The Art of War. So my only real point here to people who keep thinking Trump is like some sort of idiot or it's just like, seriously, you guys are so fucking dumb. Like, you guys are just so fucking dumb. Like, let your ego out of the picture because it's your ego. And a lot of these people, I probably shouldn't say they're so fucking dumb. A lot of them are smart, but their ego blocks them from that one piece of the puzzle, and it's the most important piece of the puzzle. I bank my entire reputation on it. It's the most important piece of the puzzle. Once you understand that Trump is a good guy and he's been actually like on our side and trying to get rid of these people, everything else makes sense. So, hello from Europe. Hello from New Jersey. How much vitamin C daily? Well, theoretically, you want to have as much until you shit yourself and then taper back because you want to saturate your cells. I did that. I can't say I recommend it. Like I said in this, I probably have half a heaping teaspoon per day. Some might say to have more. I've also heard you should space it throughout the day. I don't do that though. So the HAARP thing, anything to be said about human manipulation with electromagnetic waves? Well, you're talking about 5G. It's when people think actually that there's a pretty big theory here that 5G is responsible for a lot of the coronavirus stuff. And I don't buy it, but I think it's really good to think about because Wuhan was where 5G was rolled out, and you can see it clustered in certain locations. I think it's totally worth speculating on, but no one's been able to explain to me why Iran got hit so badly when they don't have 5G. And if you can't reconcile that, then 5G it damages your electromagnetic field, and it does what's the word I'm looking for? Which reduces your immune system. So it would certainly be a corresponding effect, but some people talk about it like there's like a trigger with it, and I don't know about that. But I spent 4 figures on an EMF blocker. I took it from New York, and it's in our house right now. So I mean, I'm serious about it. I'm serious about it. 5G is what when you go, those millimeter scans at the airport. People are like people don't want to walk through that. You don't want to walk through that. I understand that. I don't want to walk through that either. That's why I gave my biometrics to the government. I actually just did that I just did that because of convenience. Okay, I'm a normie. It was convenient for me to not wait in line at the airport. Figured they have my biometrics anyway, since I had to give my biometrics when I became a private investigator a couple years ago. But point is that I was trying to say is that if you walk through that, you're getting the same level of radiation that you get from 5G nonstop. So imagine yourself inside that scanner at the airport all the time, and that is 5G on your body. So imagine it. Would it be possible to decline a vaccine? Well, under the CABAL, no. But fortunately, they're out of here. Event 201 and Contagion, any clues? Yeah, man, they're always seeding. They're always seeding their ideas. Contagion was definitely one of them. Just look. I mean, where's the one? I saw it on the there was so much satanic imagery, especially in recent videos. There's one. It's got a girl who kind of looks like Margot Robbie, but she's not. She's like a cheaper version. And it's one of you guys may remember it. She is in a house with a bunch of cabal like figures, and they have to play this game. She's going to get married, and then they draw a card that means she has to be sacrificed. And there's this whole thing, and she's trying to escape, and it's literally like a ripoff of shit that's happened with the Rothschilds place. I mean, it's a total ripoff of it. So they're constantly seeding things that are going on. I said this in a previous Periscope. That if you want to see what the DIA has wanted to be seeded to the public, because they had a hard time getting a lot of stuff passed, like put out through Congress about it. Stargate SG-1. Stargate SG-1 is a massive disclosure about things that have been going on in the deeper parts of the military. The entire series was commissioned by the DIA to be put out there. Now, the DIA was not in Cabal's good graces, so it did not get as much traction. But it's a very serious TV show because it's a disclosure piece. It's not a propaganda piece. It's all a little bit propaganda, but. Can I DM you a huge? You can DM me for sure, man. I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. I appreciate it. Oh my goodness. Okay, not saying anything or blah blah blah. What about tomorrow being the 4th anniversary of the Georgia Stones? Yeah, boy. I don't know anything about that. If you could tell me, I would appreciate it. Is the economy screwed now? Well, let me say this first. I'm not gonna upload this to YouTube. I don't want. I don't. Maybe I don't even know how to do it, to be honest. But you just have to skip through some of the sections there. You just have to skip through some of the sections. I know it's glitchy. It was being jammed. I was talking to a friend recently. They jammed the signal. I had full service. We both had full service. They jammed the signal. I touched on the last Periscope on a lot of stuff that was a little bit too close to home. You know what? You know what, Cabal, though? I don't fucking care. Like, my house is warded. You guys understand that? Not that you have any time to fucking deal with this, but my house is warded. Like, you guys tried to fuck with me last summer. I didn't forget about that. But it's done. You guys are done. Stop fucking with my friends. Stop fucking with my family. Like, it's not going to happen. All right? It's over. It's over. What's the worst you can do? The worst you can do is kill me. I don't care. I don't care. You guys are powerless here now. Enjoy prison. I don't know what the 40th anniversary of the Georgia Stones is. I don't know what that is. The economy is screwed temporarily. I'm not going to talk about Nessia right now. You guys can look up Nessia and Jessia. I don't have it has to do with the system being replaced with a gold back system. I don't want to go into too. I want to save it. I'll save this conversation for another time. But if you guys want to check it out, decode fried fish. 2 options. People are saying false flag. I get that. I don't know what that means though in context. I've heard of fish being flesh. I've heard of very long-term references relating to that. So they could be talking about they can't get children, pasta. They can't get children, so they're going to get flesh, adult flesh, easier to get. That could be what she's saying. Have I seen Italy? I've been to Italy many times. Growing up, I knew Rome better than Philadelphia, and I lived 10 minutes from Philadelphia. I lived 10 minutes from Philadelphia. Oh, I guess I'd live again there. But I have not seen it since the disease. No, actually, I've never been to northern Italy, to be honest. I've heard it's pretty bad. Well, the toilet paper thing, I talked about this. It's probably a psyop to get people to buy essential goods because you go to get toilet paper and then you pick up extra food. And if we do have the 10 days of darkness, everything could be really shut down. So I really recommend you guys get a month's worth of food, minimum 2 weeks. I mean, really minimum 2 weeks that you do not have to go out. NBA players getting COVID, adrenochrome. All day, every day, adrenochrome. I speculated last time that perhaps it was a signal that they were cooperating. I no longer think that based on the density. I'm buying more and more the theory that they're being traced. Why aren't the draconians considered demons? It's a conversation for another time. Some people, it may be semantic. To be honest, I don't know. people talk about him being from a different world, but also from a different dimension, and that could be semantic. I've heard different argumentations on that. So we'll talk about that on their podcast, on their Periscope. Easiest entry point to bring it up with friends is at 9/11. Building 7 is a pretty good one because no one can really argue with Building 7. It's interesting, Riv, that you mentioned 9/11 because Building 7, well, people talked about the gold being taken out of it and people talked about the building being collapsed, controlled demo. But I've also heard that the reason it was destroyed is because of NESIA, right? The agreement signed in the secret session of Congress that basically got rid of the Fed. It was supposed to go into effect on September 11th at 10 a.m. I have not done enough research into it to find that credible. I will tell you, though, that Trump has been going against the Fed openly. And so we know that Trump is going to get rid of the Fed. Now, people say it's going to happen now. Maybe it's going to happen now. Maybe it's going to happen within a year. I always thought it was going to be a second term from a timing perspective. But if the economy collapses temporarily, it is an opportunity, and you never miss an opportunity to destroy your enemies. So I would say Building 7 because no one can explain Building 7. No one can explain it. I mean, it literally collapsed. It was not hit by anything, and it collapsed in a controlled demolition. And it had on inside of it an enormous number of government documents. So people can have dissonance about that, but I mean, man, if a vaccine, if they're trying to force vaccines on people, then then this is Agenda 21, and we're in insurgency level. So they're gonna force you to have it. Are you a fucking American? Are you a fucking American, right? Guys, I want to tell you this about the American system. I've heard different theories about this stuff, and the only one that really patterns well is this one, which is that the founding fathers knew about the cabal, which is tied to the British royal family, and they tried to get the fuck out of it. And they were Freemasons, which doesn't necessarily mean anything because any guy who was of any esteem at that time was a Freemason. And what it does actually show is that they knew a lot of the stuff on the inside. You can't tell me that they created America for the cabal when the American system is designed on every single level to resist cabal activity. It is literally like it's kind of like it's like a maze. Like you infiltrate it and you're at one level and you have multiple different levels you have to go through. And this is the thing with the cabal, like you have presidency, you have Congress, 2 branches of Congress, presidency, 2 branches of Congress, Supreme Court. Then you have the states. The states have their own protections. And then you have the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, most of all. I mean, America is a disaster country if you want to take it over. Britain's a great example of an easy country to take over because they have no constitution. Everything is by basically whatever the judges decide is right. And there's no way you can go against that. So somebody has to explain to me, because use logical thinking here. If America was a state designed for the cabal, why have the cabal been trying to get into it for such a long time? Why with the War of 1812, with the supporting the Confederacy during the Civil War, bankrolling the Confederacy for much of the Civil War? The Federal Reserve Act, right? All the stuff with Roosevelt and MI6. I mean, we're not going to go into it, but America was designed to get away from the cabal, and what we're doing now, it's going to be a future version of it. So, blah 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 blah. Power shorts in UK. Tataria, man, I looked at some of Fomenko's stuff. I'm not sure I'm convinced about it. But it's interesting. I do like these crazy ideas and to consider it. I did explore Tataria though, and there's something to there is something to the origins of European people with the Scythians and where did we really come from? And you look at the Uyghurs and you look at stuff with Tibet and the Manchus. There's a lot of interesting history there that's been buried. So I do recommend questioning, but yeah. How do you think they got Ellen DeGeneres? I don't know, man. Tainted adrenochrome, maybe. I don't know. Baroness Tesla, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, just a little point on Tatari. I mean, it was Slavic, and Slavic, or really Scythian. Scythians is the way you want to look at it. The Scythians were a group that were sort of Proto-Germanic and Slavic, mostly Slavic, but also the Hungarians. I mean, they all kind of came from the steppe, and it's difficult to discern the exact origins of that. And I don't want to talk about it too much because it's just really, I only mention it so you can do your own explorations. It is not anywhere close to my area of expertise. Next Periscope is Wednesday, and I will not do Periscopes daily. I think they're fun too, but if I'm a dating coach, and I'm only doing them through Easter, twice a week. We'll talk about other stuff on other Periscopes, but I'd rather also, let's make these special, right? There's a lot of stuff happening. Got a lot. Tons of stuff to cover and talk about. I'm trying to go through all this stuff. Yeah, unlimited free energy. A lot of this stuff, guys. Yeah, I talked about red pill entry for normies. I said building 7, I think, is good. Pasta is pretty much confirmed as being a sign for children. Pasta and pizza. Pizzagate's a good example of something that's like probably was legit, but was used as a gaslighting operation. There were things that were playing in there that got people to jump in really hardcore, and then they got trapped, and then they were able to be like, it's like then humiliated, and as a way to discredit an operation. It's a very good form of intelligence operation, by the way, is that you give someone. This was me the other day, actually. Like, I fall for it sometimes. I mean, with the video, right? Like saying these are new things that have been released. Like, that was like, oh my god. Like, I like emotionally, I was like, yeah, that makes sense based on what's going on. I didn't do my due diligence first, and that's on me, right? But a way to trap people in an intelligence operation is to basically give them all the little steps to go where they want to go, where they emotionally want to go, and then they go there, and then you close the door on them, and it's like, this was all set up. You look like an idiot, even if 80% of it was legit. And they do this with movements all the time, which is why you see extremist movements, some of which are legitimately extreme, and some of which are not, but get wrapped up by intelligence operations. It's a very good defensive measure. Infiltration and leading them in a crazy direction, which is why, and it's less relevant now, but you should just know it. Anyone who ever tells you to get violent is a spook. They're a spook. They want you to get violent because they want you to destroy your movement. Do not do that stuff. Do not follow anybody. We're here. We're talking about ideas. We're speculating. Anyone who's telling you, like, you got to do this, you got to do that, especially if they play to your ego, they're spook. Guys, I think this is probably good. I think dinner's here. I know I got more comments here. I'm sorry, but I'm getting cold out here and it's dinner time. So I appreciate you guys showing up. We will talk on Wednesday. Topics to be determined. Feel free to DM me. See you guys. Enjoy your weekend.